Hi everyone, this is take two of this video because I was stumbling over my words and I really want to get this right. So I was watching a dark empath video on YouTube, and instead of feeling like I'd come away learning something, it just felt like some of the most amateurish, pandering BS that I've ever seen in my life. First of all, in order to truly understand the dark personalities, we have to understand something fundamental about material nature and about ourselves. The first thing that we have to understand is that nature and human beings included are inherently selfish. Now, many people will disagree with me because the way that nature works is that, nature works on an exchange, right? So we get it into ourselves that because human beings are social animals and, we do for each other and we may even feel for each other on a deep-seated level, we get to thinking that because we feel for each other in this way and we do for each other in this way, that there isn't inherent selfishness behind it, but there is. The whole purpose of sharing and the whole purpose of social interactions between living things is to survive, is for our survival. And anything that wishes to survive has a selfish motive. And now a lot of people will say that's not true. But the truth of the matter is, the more independent you are, this is what nobody tells you. The more independent that you choose to be, the more you choose to cut yourself off from this perspective that I'm demonstrating to you. The more you choose to cut yourself off and the more independent you choose to be is actually the more selfless you're being, because you're cutting off a fundamental and primal part of your DNA that is choosing to survive. Or conversely, it could be that you're seeking another collective that helps you survive more optimally, which comes back to the selfishness part. So living things or any living being is inherently selfish and inherently here to survive as long as possible. And it starts before we're even born into the world. It starts from conception. This is what the Bible means by, human beings are inherently evil or that babies are evil. It doesn't mean that babies are born being like Stewie Griffin in Family Guy. That's not what it means. It means that inherently we are of this world when we are born, and our immediate impulse is to survive by any means necessary. And the only way we can do that is through socialization. So before we even start talking about the dark personalities, which are basically like fucking black holes in terms of character, before we even get into understanding the darker side of human nature or the dark personalities that we have labeled, we have to understand that human beings are inherently selfish in the first place. The reason for social groups inherently is selfishness. We want to deny that. We want to say it's selflessness. It's not selflessness. It is selfishness. That is the reason why we attach ourselves to groups that are more like-minded, or we strengthen family ties. It's for the ultimately selfish act of survival. So we all have that selfish impulse within us. And we all use force, manipulation, or power in order to get what we want. It's just that it depends upon who the person is and how far they take it. Who the person is and how far they take those three impulses that we all engage in, it depends upon how much they demand from the collective. So understanding that we all have that selfish impulse within us, it actually enables us to understand the dark personalities a bit more, because then we're not lost in understanding exactly why our abusers do what we do, or even when we mistreat each other, why we do what we do. It takes the mystery out of it. And when you take the mystery out of it and you take the Hollywood narrative out of it, what it actually does is it weakens the abuser's power. Because seeing the abusers as human beings, as long as you don't take it too far and use that as an excuse to relax your boundaries, seeing your abusers as human first before they are your abusers, it allows you to understand your own nuance as well, and it allows you to forgive yourself. What does that do? That takes away the abuser's power, because if you've forgiven yourself and you've understand the inherent selfishness within yourself as well as your abuser, it takes away the abuser's power over you, because the mystery isn't there anymore. They're no longer the big bad. They're just these very sad, desperate people who have significant trauma that they have not addressed, significant intergenerational trauma in the cases of psychopaths, or significant personal trauma in the case of sociopaths or narcissists. They clearly have a lot of trauma that they have not dealt with, which has led them to become a bottomless pit of resources, time, and energy, because they constantly feel like they're under attack and like they are not safe. When you think about such people from that perspective, you take away their power over you and you cut off some of their resources. But thinking of them as just this big bad and as these monsters, it doesn't help you and it doesn't help them. Because you thinking of them as these monsters, it might work for a time, but the second they show you any glimpses of redeeming qualities, our barriers immediately break down. That's why I don't like these dark empath videos. That's why I don't like these, sociopath videos or these psychopath videos, because as helpful as they are initially, the fact that we keep villainizing these people or creating a dichotomy with such people, it can be helpful in reinforcing boundaries initially, but those boundaries don't bend, which means they can easily break. And what you don't want to do is create a barrier around yourself that is not bendable but easily breakable, because you haven't allowed nuance into the conversation. The reason why somebody can abuse me and then they can turn around and say sorry, and I'm like, no, I'm not moved. It's not because I don't see the humanity in them, and it's not because I don't see the truth about who they are, not as a monster, but as a human being. It's because I can see them as human beings why a lot of my abusers these days, they can't fucking manipulate me like that, because I can see the humanity in them. I can see the humanity in them. It's not even just a case of seeing myself in them. I see their humanity. I see that their abuse of me is not just about enjoying it. It's not just about getting some sort of glee out of it like a fucking cartoon villain. It's born from an inherent bottomless pit of insecurity, and not even just in terms of what they think of themselves, but feeling unsafe and insecure all the time, and having to kill or having to abuse or having to torture just to feel a semblance of peace in their lives. Learning to see them as that, initially, it can make you soft, but that barrier, that soft barrier that you create around yourself, it's not so easily broken, because you can see the humanity, and once you see the humanity, you see the humanity in yourself. And once you see the humanity in yourself, like I explained before, how much power can they really have over you if you see the humanity in yourself and you accept the humanity in yourself? It means they have nothing to draw from. So, as much as I come online and talk shit, and I do come online and talk shit, look back at my past videos, I've done it. I've come online and I've talked my shit. I've said, oh, my abusers are evil. They're demons. Yeah, I've said that. But the truth of the matter is, none of my torturers or abusers have been demons. That's exactly what's made them so effective for so long. If they were truly demons and they were truly these terrible human beings, do you seriously think they'd be able to get away with it for this long? There is only so far that monsterization can take you. There is only so far that you demonizing yourself or you monsterizing yourself through your actions, there's only so far that can fucking take you. The gang stalkers know that. The perps know that. They know that using nuance, using, behaving like cunts most of the time, and then having like redeeming qualities here and there, they know that's essential in order to keep you insecure and keep you on your toes. That's why understanding things from a nuanced position, rather than saying, oh, dark empaths enjoy hurting you when they enjoy it. And I'm like, it's not as simple as that. It's not as simple as them enjoying fucking with you. It's just they feel insecure all the time. They're in fear all the time. Like I said, they're black holes. They're black holes, in human form. And I don't even mean that to be an insult. I mean that they will never be satisfied, because the trauma that they have sustained throughout their lives is so substantive. Nothing can fill that hole. Nothing. So they will consume more and more attention, more time, more love, more this, more that. It will never be enough, because they always feel like they are in danger. So when you've got genuinely evil people, being violent, being abusive, any of that, and they turn around and tell you that they're doing it to survive, understand that even if you know that's not true, that doesn't mean they know it's not true. They feel that emotionally on a deep-seated level. Human beings kill each other all the time just to make the world a little bit of a more bearable place to live in. They've done it since the dawn of time. So why wouldn't they do it now? And the more you crave space and the more you feel like you can't breathe, the more you will try to eliminate any apparent pollutants in your way. That's just the way it is. And that's exactly how these dark personalities operate. They are people who feel like they can't breathe, looking for air. It was one of the reasons why in my older videos, I used to say to my abusers, why don't you just end it? End your lives, because you clearly don't want to be here. Now, as horrible as that was, and as harsh as that was, the reason I used to say these things is because when you are an abusive person and you have like a deep-seated well of trauma that's a bottomless pit that never ends, life is literally hell. And it doesn't matter how much you consume, you can consume massive amount of love, money, time, attention. It will never fill that hole. That is the literal definition. That is the textbook definition of hell. Nothing is ever enough. And nothing will ever fill that hole. And it doesn't matter how many people they torture or abuse or make feel like shit. They're always going to feel like shit. It's just never going to change because of the trauma they've sustained. That's why I used to say to them, just end it. I don't say that anymore. But that's why I used to say that. That's why I used to say, just end it. Don't drag other people into your misery. Just end it now. Don't subject people to the same torture you feel every day just by existing. End it. And that was an awful thing to say. That's an awful thing to come out with. That's an awful thing to say, but there was a grain of truth in that awful behavior that I demonstrated and those awful things that I used to say to my perps and to the people that are abusing me. Because these people increasingly felt powerless, but they were, like I said, they are black holes. There's a bottomless pit of trauma, a bottomless pit of never enough, never enough, never enough. And what it does, it drags everything else down around with it, and it implodes it. And it leads to destruction. But life is hell for a lot of our abusers. That's why they do what they do. Only they're so far gone in their own delusions or in rewriting the effects of their trauma. They're so caught up in it, they can't see the hell that they're in. So it's like something out of the Matrix, right? It's like the Matrix is this glamorous, this glamorous metropolis or what have you, but the real world is scorched earth with no sun. That's the difference between a narcissist's mind or a dark personality's mind and their feelings. That's the difference between a dark personality's mind and their feelings. And a lot of people who find themselves being abused, they're usually abused because, the outer vulnerability that such people display reflects the inner hell of the abuser. But truth be told, a lot of the people that end up being abused, either they don't have that dichotomy between their thoughts and feelings, or if they do, they manage it a little bit better and they're a little bit more honest with themselves, which ironically leads to being less well adjusted. But anyway, the people who usually end up abused either don't have that dichotomy, or if they do have that dichotomy, they're usually more honest with themselves about it. Not with other people, but with themselves. And because of that, the abusive person interprets that as a threat. That's exactly what I'm saying to you guys. It is not enough to villainize our abusers or to villainize the people that are doing this to us. If you don't want to have any sympathy for them, then don't. They don't fucking deserve any. Okay? If you don't want to sympathize with them, you don't have to. But to be cognitively aware of the nuances is important, because it enables you to have healthy boundaries when it comes to yourself and when it comes to the people around you. And also it enables you to stop kicking yourself just because you're not as violent in your response as the abusers are towards you in the first place. It's videos like that dark empath video that make people feel like shit and make people feel like, because I'm not as violent, or I'm not as, I'm not as petty or not as vengeful as this person, then I'm weak. No, you're not. You're really not. This is why the popularization of anything, but especially philosophy, psychology, or alchemy, can be really problematic. This is why. Because in order to popularize something, or in order to commercialize something, you have to turn evil into hard currency. And when that happens, everything becomes simplified to a childish degree, because when your mind is constantly in a fear space, you need everything simplified for you in order for you to feel validated. And there are two types of evil in the world that are turned into hard currency: the evil that you inflict and the evil that is inflicted upon you. Those are the two types of evil that are turned into hard currency. And the people who turn the evil they inflict into hard currency, like I said before, their mind, glamorous metropolis, their spirits, scorched earth with no sun. So the delusion factor with the former is important, but with the latter, the delusion's there too, but it's in a different form. It's in the form of that other person's the villain because I need them to be. But you know, like I said, the problem is that defense in feeling like certain people are evil, it doesn't last long, and it actually makes things worse, and it actually stops you from self-reflection, the self-reflection necessary to forgive yourself. And when you can't forgive yourself, you don't have a strong sense of self, and when you don't have a strong sense of self, you don't have strong senses of boundaries. It is dangerous to continuously apply dichotomies to everything. And you know, that if you'd have asked me 9 years ago or something, or even like 5 years ago, if I was to see this video of myself right now, I would think bull and shit, because even though I'd done some wrong of my own, I'd had my vulnerability and my emotions used against me at every opportunity by weak people who lived in those conditions that I just told you about. So, you know, it's like, you know, if I'd have seen myself with this video 5 years ago, I would have said bullshit. Nuance is for weak people. Nuance is for cowards. But this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say this world makes hard currency out of your pain. And when it does that, when it makes a hard currency out of your shame, out of your fear, out of your grief, out of your guilt, what happens is that it blinds you to what you truly need in order to evolve as a person, and especially in order to evolve beyond the abuse that you've gone through and continue to go through. In order for you to overcome your abuser, as much as they don't fucking deserve it, you've got to cognitively humanize your abuser. And you have got to cognitively understand that life is life because of selfishness. A lot of people say it's due to love. That's actually true as well. Love is a creator of most things. Love creates most things. Love also destroys, but love creates as well. But where does love come from? Love comes from highly concentrated desire, doesn't it? And where does highly concentrated desire come from? Self-interest. So understanding that human beings are inherently selfish no matter who we are, and that the whole point of us being social animals is to survive. Once we get that in our heads, we can humanize both ourselves and our abusers. Once we do that, we can create stronger boundaries and healthy boundaries to actually defend ourselves against abuse properly and in a way that is in line with our true selves and in line with who we truly are. But this whole thing about your abusers enjoy it when you have no power, like, knock it off. Seriously? Knock it off. They're not Captain Claw or whatever the fuck his name is. Just knock it off, bruh. Just knock it off. Life is not that simple. And this is what I notice with people, especially when fucking resources are dwindling. Everybody wants everything to be simple. It's not that fucking simple. And wrapping our minds around that and understanding that is what's going to evolve us to true freedom. Anyway, sorry, got a little bit distracted. You know, the ADD shit, right? Anyway, I've got to go. So, new moon in Uttara Bhadrapada, which is my favorite nakshatra, and you can blame Claire Nakti for that. You can blame her for that. New moon in Uttara Bhadrapada is coming on I was going to do it on the 21st, but I feel like it would be better for me to do that on Monday. So I'm going to be doing new moon in Uttara Bhadrapada on Monday, the 20th of March. I've also got stuff coming up in April, so stay tuned for that. And I hope I explain myself clearly. I tend to repeat myself a lot, but I hope I explain myself clearly anyway. So anyway, to my fellow TIs, I love you. I support you. To anyone who's not a TI, welcome. And to anyone who's a perp watching my videos, keep that algorithm going, homie. Anyway, I love you guys. Peace and blessings. And take care. Okay? Bye-bye.